Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kanchi Shah. I head the business vertical for the EMEA markets at Strategy. And it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to the Connected CIO webinar on behalf of Dell Technologies and Strategy. This webinar is themed around accelerating to a connected future. Michael Dell, in an interview, shared his vision on the 2021 economic outlook and the innovation roadmap around six major technology drivers. The pandemic has forced businesses to digitally transform in ways that would normally have taken years to accomplish. Businesses have been transforming digitally at speed to survive. Organizations are investing in and adopting solutions built around multi cloud, edge computing, the explosion in data and data management, the modernization of networking, and the build out of 5G, AI and machine learning, and security. The discussion in today's episode will revolve around AI, ML, and data monetization. As AI and ML take center stage, organizations are starting to build a strong foundation to enable turning their data into actionable insights and drive enhanced revenues. With this as a driver, we would like to kick off today's session, and I welcome Mr. Shantanu Ganguly, CEO Strategy, to join us and deliver the keynote address. Over to you, Shantanu.
Hi, good day everybody. By the end of 2024, 75% of enterprises will operationalize artificial intelligence, that is AI, driving a 5x increase in data and analytics infrastructure. By collecting the data correctly from diverse sources and coupling AI ML solutions, organizations are crafting actionable business insights with far reaching impact. In the process, turning data into action, insights, and enhanced revenues. This is Shantanu Ganguly, CEO at Strategy. Today, let me share with you 5 key attributes around AI ML led data monetization in context of Indian business and industry. First, market potential and growth indicators, as you can see on your screen, are phenomenal, which validates wide scale adoption of both AI ML as well as big data analytics. And as a couple of these research snippets also make some of these numbers very evident and compelling. Second, AI ML led data monetization has moved beyond the stages of experimentation. And in India itself, diverse organizations are increasingly leveraging AI, ML, and big data technologies for automating physical work, data collection, processing tasks, anything that's manual and repetitive in nature. Thirdly, many progressive businesses are also able to relate up to 20% of their annual profits to AI, ML, and big data initiatives, which makes it easier to mobilize and justify ongoing investments. Fourth, let's talk about some of the common learnings and common barriers to adoption of AI, ML, and big data analytics at a pan enterprise level. Top concern is around security and privacy, followed by inability to justify return on investments, and last but not the least, lack of skilled human resources. The fifth point I want to touch upon today is something which is very important. It's about effective and proven adoption practices. Top three of them include: number one, the need for a top down approach with an executive sponsor who champions ongoing progress and outcomes. Number two, setting and tracking to achievable financial milestones. This is surely something very, very important. It helps justify the ROI and keep sustained progressive budget allocation ongoing as one progresses through this journey. And last but not the least, keeping things simple is also critically important, not to get lost into a landscape of complex integrations. With this, I sign off now. As together with you all, I am eagerly looking forward to eminent industry leaders and experts joining us today in the next few moments to share their valuable experience and insights around AI, ML, and data monetization. Stay tuned and good day.
Thank you very much, Shantanu, for joining us and setting the tone for today's webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, coming up next is a panel discussion. This one is going to discuss AI. Artificial intelligence is going to transform the future, that's for sure. However, there's still a lot of time till AI takes over the world completely by storm. At the moment, it is at a relatively nascent stage. However, people are undoubtedly very keen and hungry to use AI. Although it has its own set of restrictions in some way, still, the AI experts are trying to make full use of technology to invent new and highly useful AI based solutions. How these are being adopted and what's in store for us is what we are going to look at through the upcoming discussion. To share their inputs on the session, I'd like to welcome Mr. Atanu Roy, Group CIO, Biocon, and Mr. Manish Gupta, Senior Director, Dell Technologies. Moderating the conversation, we have with us Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategy. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be your host today for a panel discussion that promises to be nothing short of fascinating. Because we're going to be talking about how technology by itself can be the driver and the pivot for organizations to accelerate towards value orientation, as well as craft and create more resilient and intelligent enterprises. Because it comes as no surprise that an increasing percentage of companies today is using data and analytics to generate growth. Data monetization and management, therefore, as a means of such growth, while still in its early days, provides us clearly fair a bit of evidence to suggest that the fastest growing companies are already ahead of their peers, and that is the ability that it has the ability to generate and delve. As AIML equally takes center stage, organizations today are starting to build a strong foundation to enable turning the data into action, strategy, and enhanced revenues. The new mantra for companies looking to grow through data and analytics is clearly the underlying layer of data architectures, as well as artificial intelligence and machine learning. And to talk to me and in dialogue with me today, please put your hands together to welcome Atanu Roy, Group CIO Biocon. Mr. Roy, delighted to have you with us. A sheer privilege, sir.
Yeah, same here. Nice talking to both of you.
Thank you. And Mr. Manish Gupta, Senior Director and General Manager, ISG for Dell Technologies. Manish, thank you for taking our time. We're delighted that you could join us today.
It's an absolute pleasure, Arjun.
Thank you. Mr. Roy, Manish, we've got a clear 35 minutes to have what promises to be one of those pivotal conversations that will provide the essential guidance for industry and spur them on towards positive growth. Because Mr. Roy, I'm going to come to you really today. We've been speaking about the power of data to become capital. But it's also true that data also has the power to become a strategic business asset. My question to you really is, if at all this is a journey that must be undertaken, how in your guidance and in your perspective should this journey even be approached? Mr. Atanu Roy.
So, when we look at manufacturing industries, and this will vary to some extent, the approach you take will vary from companies to companies, industries to industries. Now, when you look at manufacturing industries, and if I go to pharmaceutical in particular, there is one there are three dimensions as I will cut it. One is that the manufacturing value chain. How do you improve the throughput? That means with the existing capacity, how are you able to produce more at a lesser cost? And that is one dimension of it where AI ML can help significantly. So, for example, in maintenance, can you do a predictive maintenance of the equipments in the plant and thereby prevent the downtimes, avoid the downtimes, and hence have a higher throughput? So, for example, in these COVID times, it is extremely important that the full capacity of the manufacturing facility works, and that is where, so that you can produce more of the products. For example, we have a product called eculizumab, which is used by a lot of COVID patients, and you need to maximize your throughput. So, predictive plant maintenance can help in improving the throughput. Similarly, the complete manufacturing, how do you increase the yield of a fermentation process or any other process? So that is where AIML can increase the throughput, reduce the cost, which is extremely important. Now let's go to the R&D side of it, which is where again AIML can help in increasing the speed of drug discovery. While that happens, it is also used if I want to improve the capability of the people. For example, I might not have that many experts, but the AIML solutions can be an assistant which can make an average person to expert level. It will augment the skills. So there are various ways where overall the capability of the organization will improve, either through a throughput increase in the value chain or by improving capability or faster drug discovery. Now, going to the sales side of it. Now, here, the question is not to increase sales, which in many other industries will have. But for us, it is, can we do a more focused delivery to patients? Can we, if there is a diabetes patient, today, can we help the doctor to give insulin at the right quantity? It will serve more number of patients and possibly help in patient care much better. Can we avoid oral cancers to go at uh, uh, prevent it at the early stages? So that is where again analytics will help. It, unlike many other industries where on the sales side or on the customer side, let me not say sales side, on the customer side it might be focused on increasing revenue. For companies like us, it is to give a better service, better treatment, and avoid problems. So where there is already a patient who is suffering from a particular disease, can there be personalized doses which can be given of medicines? And can there be a digital therapeutics type of thing embedded with artificial intelligence, which is going to personalize the treatment and give the right amount of doses, which will help recovery better and also use with all the data available to do the avoid the treatment.
That's
Now,
very powerfully articulated, Mr. Roy. But with your permission, I just wanted, I think it's a fascinating set of points. Manish, I'm going to come to you on what Mr. Roy just said. And he clearly listed out the immense number of use cases that clearly present themselves. In your view, and given your wide spectrum of visibility within Indian industry, how do you think organizations today can be encouraged and enthused to forge more intelligent journeys forward, taking into account exactly what Mr. Rai was elucidating? Manish Gupta.
It's very interesting, and by the way, some extremely interesting points that Mr. Roy brought in. Here is what we need to realize, that first and foremost, this entire technology is very real. There was a point in time when folks were worried whether there's a lot of hype around this. But remember, we're in a world where you've got the right drivers in terms of algorithms, you've got the right fuel in terms of data, and you've got the right compute power. The engine, which is accelerators, and the compute power, which did not exist earlier. Which is why, first and foremost, organizations need to realize that this is a very, very real technology, and there are enough and more places and use cases where it can be utilized to, some of the examples that Mr. Roy gave were around process improvement. And process improvement clearly goes into, it's strategic and has a very high feasibility. Equally, the other area in which Mr. Roy touched upon, and he touched upon more as customer experience, because in his industry it is not particularly revenue, but a lot of other industries, it could be innovation around revenue generation, where the feasibility right now is not as high as process improvement, but the strategic value can be immense. So the answer to the question that you're asking, Arjun, really is the fact that there is humongous amount of value for customers, both in terms of strategic value and the feasibility of doing the projects, which is why organizations need to lab this opportunity with both the hands. Let's also look at a couple of other elements here, and I'll give you some examples ourselves. But let me first talk about what's happening in the industry. There are trillions and trillions of dollars that are going into AI ML innovation. There's money that's coming in from VCs, from PEs, and a lot of research money that's going in. When you talk to analysts, I was talking to Forrester the other day, and they're saying that organizations should be spending 4 times more money than they've spent just the last year, right, in the coming year. I'll give you the example of what we are doing. For example, within our company, there are 40 plus teams that are dedicated only to AML projects, and that's Dell internal, right? This is not just a customer side of it. There are 1,800 plus data science projects and roles that are available. There is a lot of innovation that's happening not just on the sales side, but for example, on the pricing strategy, on how do we give better support to our customers and on the products. There's so much more that we are able to do both on the revenue generation as well as on the process improvement. So I would say if organizations really need to differentiate themselves, be the disruptor in their industry, and be able to go over and beyond, this is the right path to catch on to. We've been hearing about digital transformation for a fair bit of time. Every organization is talking about digital transformation. There are a lot of them which are really way ahead in the journey. But really, unless organizations are able to get insights out of data, that transformation, that journey will continue to be incomplete.
That's an interesting point, and I think that was very supremely articulated. Because, Mr. Roy, I'm going to come to you, and I'm going to come to you with perhaps what one can observe as a reality, because both of you gentlemen have very supremely articulated the opportunities that need to be seized, and the fact that technology is available today for industry to seize those opportunities. But, Mr. Roy, it is also my duty and perhaps an imperative to ask you this question. In our overall evolution in terms of technology maturity within Indian industry, do you feel that we've even scraped the surface of the data that we are generating and that such as is available to us for us to truly make the best of technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning? Because at the end of the day, if you're feeding the solution or the software and the hardware basic data, well, how much can one expect, Mr. Roy?
So, preparing the data so that we make the best use of the technology and the models which are there, I think is very important. And the creativity. So one hand, see, the good thing is that the algorithms and the models are now readily available. So that has been democratized, which was not there 15 years back or this. So that is a huge improvement which has happened. A lot of building blocks, the Lego building blocks have come up. That is a huge advantage. Now, so one part of the puzzle has been solved. Now, the other thing is to think of important use cases. How do we use all these Lego building blocks which are there to solve what problem? Defining that problem. The other part is preparing the data for it. Now, that is where the missing link is. Cleanliness of the data, and we might need to augment the data because that data might not be complete. And so that is where problems have to be solved. Like when I look into manufacturing, now let me take all the three value chain parts which I talked about. If I take manufacturing, I have partial data. So how do I augment it so that I can make use of these models? Otherwise, these models are not useful. So there I need to think of creatively to augment it. Might be I will use now additional investment. I will use IoTs to quickly create more data. I will use sensors to do it. I have to clean the data. Existing data might not be clean. So there again, solutions have to be there to clean the data. So preparing the data and doing it creatively is another problem. I think if I have to see the quantum of it, the building blocks of the models are now available, so that there I would spend possibly 10% of the time. Creating the interesting use cases, I will spend 20% of the time. The remaining part of the time would be preparing the data and getting the data and the missing blocks. And possibly for the missing blocks, I need to identify the proxies for that.
Which is very fascinating, really, because that's exactly what was going on in my mind, Mr. Roy, when you were articulating this. Because Manish, I bring this to you. The whole concept of intelligence, or crafting intelligence, or building intelligent organizations and enterprises, is for real-time insights. Uh, I therefore must, on behalf of this wonderful audience that's tuned in with us today, I must ask you, at Dell Technologies and with your overall partnership ecosystem, how are you devising and fashioning solutions that will truly help organizations in the Indian industry approach this journey, one that is fascinating but complex for sure. Approach this journey in a judicious manner, get it right the first time, and therefore truly work towards real-time insights to drive hyper competitiveness. Manish Gupta,
You know,
your
it's interesting that you say that, and I think Mr. Roy was very particular in defining the value of data. He's saying, listen, I'll worry about 30% of my time on other things, but 70% has to be just data. And let me just elaborate or give my perspective on that as well. See, there is tons and tons of data that's now not tagged. It's not comprehensive. Its veracity is questionable, right? And you've also not just got structured data. You've got tons of unstructured data. So it's not just about discovering data. It is really about managing the data at scale. How do you ensure that there's veracity of data, there is tagging, and you're able to use it appropriately to get the insights. The second part also that we need to remember is all of what we have spoken is really the curation of data. There are two other components to it. One is governance and second is security. And you can't say one is more important than the other. So, it's a complex battle. Okay, so I don't think anybody here and any practitioner, any technologist would say, listen, there's something that I can just throw into a machine and I get the outcomes. And we have seen enough and more instances where biases have come into insights, and these are for some of the largest global organizations. Uh, because of inaccurate data being fed in, because the data that went in had the biases, and thus the output had biases,
output.
and that really had a significant impact on the outcomes. So I think that's one of the pieces that we need to remember. The other I would come to, and you were talking about real-time insights. I don't think it's only about real-time insights, Arjun. In fact, there are three kind of analytics that or AI that you would hear about all the time. One is the batch analytics, the good old batch analytics. Then there's near real time, and then there's the real time.
The real time.
And batch is very important. You can't say that batch is any less important because a lot of the marketing or sales and analytics and the insights that you're going to get is out of the batch processes, right? For near real time, I would say the classic example that you have in front of you every single time that you and I go to buy something on an e-commerce site are the recommendation engines. That's near real time. Well, you and I might think that, listen, this is pretty much real time, but it's near real time. On the real time, the best example that's always quoted is, and real time is really when the action is happening as the event is unfolding. The best example is autonomous cars. That we all know, so I'll not dwell into that. But let me give you another example. The network traffic shaping. So all the telcos or the internet aggregators today are able to shape their network based on the bandwidth demand that's coming from various user segments, and that's all happening real time. So and more examples, and I'll possibly talk about that later. But is real-time analytics the only AI, the only important thing? Answer is no. You've got to have your eggs in all the baskets and be able to decide your use case where you need what one versus the other. But does the technology exist? Answer is yes.
No, that is true, perhaps, and thank you, Manish and Mr. Roy, because I perhaps do stand reoriented and realigned to this concept. Is that real time maybe in the near future, surely the imperative, but there's also pieces to the puzzle and the journey to get there. Because Mr. Roy, I now come to one facet of this use of technology, which is we've got a diverse digital workforce today. Which we call the human capital. In technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, deep learning, how do you see the convergence of human capital and therefore the skills required and AI, machine learning, deep learning coming together to help organizations create a digital core?
So the way I see it, and especially in manufacturing industry, one is while we are embarking and completing these projects, there is the team which needs to get the core team or the people who are delivering these projects need to be trained to deliver that. And we need certain people who not start thinking, because this is not a one-time activity. Now this is a journey. So people have to constantly think of the use cases, and they should know the power of the potential and the power of the technology. So this is an ongoing journey. So we need to create this capability in the user departments who start thinking in this way. That is one thing. The second thing is, and in the IT team, there has to be this capability build who can work on these technologies and build the solutions and provide. But there is the other dimension of it, where, especially in countries like ours, we can use this AI ML tools and capability to up the capability, augment the capability of the workforce. Now, then the moment we are going there, we are getting into larger masses,
Indeed.
because now an operator would use a AI/ML solution to uplift his or her capability to perform, and that is where uh, um, so the people have to start feeling comfortable doing that. People should know how to use that tool to overall improve the capability. The second thing is people should not feel threatened by that something is coming, and is it going to make me redundant or and stuff like that. So there are both these things which will go on in a person's mind, and we need to handle all these dimensions properly. But in
With
a
Mr.
nutshell, the human capability has to reorient itself and augment it, change to take advantage of these technologies and make it really effective.
And in the same breath, Mr. Roy, perhaps I may want to ask you in your experience and your visibility of how Indian industry stands evolved, given the backdrop of the recent disruption that we've had over the last 15 odd months. Uh, what, in your estimate, is going to take us to build the right level of skills and capabilities to do exactly and precisely what you just mentioned, which is seamlessly fuse together, work together as one with technology to drive incremental outcomes?
So companies who have successfully done it with focused attention, it takes about 3 to 4 years to go through this journey.
It doesn't it? Because that's a very interesting point. Because Manish, then I must ask you then the supplementary or the incremental question to this narrative, which is from your perspective at Dell Technologies, what really, and I speak on behalf of this audience also today, is what are the innovation we can expect, such as will help industry build the skills and the capabilities required, yet forge more confident and resilient journeys ahead towards becoming, like you rightly said, near real time batch as well as real time intelligence.
Just before that, and I really like some of the things that Mr. Roy was talking about. One of the concepts that I read sometime back, this is about a year and a half back, is in the new AI world, you really need explainers. So it's not just about technologists. You need explainers, because only when you are able to explain the impact of the technology and how human machine partnership has to evolve and how it will work for one versus together for both of them rather than one versus the other, that's when we'll see the true value of AI coming in. So I love that concept, which is why I thought it's good to share.
Ah,
uh,
more than fascinating, please. But Manish, really, what could one expect,
yeah.
such as will help industry forge a more resilient journey ahead?
So, and no organization today, be it an extremely evolved IT organization, or be it a user organization, can ever claim to have all the IP and all the intelligence and all the skills to go
Mm.
deliver a newish technology. It does not exist. I think the biggest thing that we bring in as an organization is the ability to collaborate, the skills that we have, the service support that we have, and the infrastructure models that we are building. What I mean by that is, for example, the moment you're looking at near real-time AI or real-time AI, you've got to be able to capture data at the edge where the data is getting generated. So that's a really new age technology, and we have got products which are able to capture data where the action is existing, is unfolding. The second part is, and I spoke about the fact that you've got the compute power, but it's not just the compute power. Today, you need multiple kind of accelerators and multiple kind of smart NICs and smart components to be able to do a lot of this workload, to compute this workload. And we are building and bringing in infrastructure that has all of the new age capabilities and stuff that is not even available today, but will be available over the next couple of years. The capability to integrate that tomorrow. The third and most important, I would say, and goes back to the lack of availability of skills. Not every organization can do it yourself. Take different components and try to put it all together. So we are bringing in validated models, engineered solutions, which an organization can just take. It has got the compilers, it's got the libraries, it's got the GUI, it's got all of that integrated into it, so that you do not have to worry about picking and putting multiple pieces together. The time to value is really high. The last that I would say is the capability that comes in from startups and the new age organizations and the independent solution vendors. So we work and we have got our stack certified and validated for all of them, a lot of them, and there'll be newer ones coming in, whom we work together to give a solution to organizations that can then drive value out of the data that they have.
Oh, very, very interesting. Because I do have a view on the clock, gentlemen, and I do know you have schedules ahead for the rest of the day. But Mr. Roy, I must ask you this question. When you kind of, and I was just writing this down while both of you were articulating your viewpoints and your perspectives. When you look at, and Manish and you, both of you mentioned that digital transformation's been there for quite a few years now. In the evolution and the realization and the comprehension of what true transformation means, your view on the following statement that I'm going to make is that DX is fundamentally about infusing intelligence into an organization for it to be able to scale its competitiveness, differentiation, and innovation towards larger outcomes. And by that measure, perhaps solutions that have infused and embedded artificial intelligence and machine learning, along with obviously sensible and judicious data architectures, is going to be perhaps the most critical technology that industry must adopt today for a better tomorrow.
No, absolutely. I fully agree with this statement. And even the smaller examples which I started with, like uh, how do you predict a maintenance problem? How do you thereby prevent it, which will increase the throughput? How do you improve the yield of a particular process? Now, all along the history of industrial revolution and manufacturing, people have been working and grappling with these problems, and organizations have made significant progress of, how do you increase throughput? How do you increase competitiveness? Because you are trying to do more with less. With whatever resources you have, you are trying to maximize and improve it. And this is the journey which people have been doing for the last 70, 80, or 100 years, since the Model T car was made, the mass production and all the, or if the Toyota production systems and all the different management concepts which came in. Now, here, when artificial intelligence comes in, it takes it multiple notches higher with these embedded technologies and in convergence of technologies. When now we are seeing total shift in the paradigm where autonomous manufacturing will happen, autonomous systems will happen, because it is very connected. So uh, to the point and the statement which you made, how we creatively use this technology is going to make a significant impact on productivity, on overall throughput, improving the quality, mistake proofing. For example, in many of the industries, and especially in pharma, and I'm sure many, preventing mistakes is a very important thing. If I go to some other industries like mines, how do you ensure a safe environment? Even in our type of companies, where we are handling dangerous chemicals or unknown chemicals for making a particular molecule or a product, we need our people to be safe. So that is where artificial intelligence, machine learning can even help them. The things like image recognition, sensing, the sensor technology. So it is not only AI, ML, but it is all the overall family of solutions which comes with the image recognition, the sensor technology, all they get integrated together. And with that, even the safety of work practices becomes much more. So I think this takes um, the overall competitiveness many notches higher. Whatever you hear about, autonomous cars and those things, they are also, those are the technologies which also comes into the shop floor, into the overall value chain, and that improves the overall capabilities significantly. So I see a lot of benefits. Having said that, especially in the manufacturing area, the disaster recovery, how do you protect from ransomware? How do you, if this type of autonomous systems and a connected system were to be hit with some viruses, then it would cripple the whole thing.
Indeed.
So how do you ensure that this is, because this is connected system, so the chances of it getting infected are that many higher.
Much higher.
The good days of isolated systems were much better. So this might increase the risks of virus attacks significantly, and the magnitude of the attacks would be higher, because now if this gets infected, then the whole operations come to a halt. So how do you prevent that? The cyber security would be very important in this context,
Very,
which has not been explored.
very interesting, sir. But therefore, Manish, now that we've heard this articulation of really how the future is going to be and how it should be, in conclusion, if I were to ask you, given your wide expertise, experience, as well as the vista that you have available in collaborating with industry, your essential guidance on three things that organizations must do today to drive, like you yourself rightly said, the intelligent enterprises of tomorrow, and your role in it.
So, very simple. First and foremost, there's got to be a comprehensive but a federated approach. It cannot just be within the domain of IT, it's got to be within the domain of IT user as well as a business user. The veracity of the data can and the outcomes can be defined by the business, and it's got to work together with IT to form that AI core center of competence. The second piece is it's not just about people, and we spoke about people about the federated structure, but it's about process and it's about platform. This is a journey where one needs to move from getting some early gains into scaling the ambitions and then finally making it world class AI. It's a journey, it's not a ever ending process. That's the second piece. And third is the ecosystem. You can't do it alone, you've got to take the larger ecosystem. Skills are not easy to find. Let's be honest about it. You've got to work with partners together. We've got to find the new world for ourselves, explore the unexplored, and try to do new things. And I think which is precisely where we as an organization come in, bringing years and the depth and the width of experience doing this with multiple organizations, with multiple verticals, and bringing the new models on table. So, in conclusion, Arjun, just to summarize, federated structure, focus on people, process, and the platform, and lastly, work with the larger ecosystem to get the right outcomes that one is looking for.
No, that's absolutely, couldn't agree more with both of you gentlemen, because much as I would love to continue this, what's been a scintillating conversation, that's pretty much what we have time in this segment for. And if I were to summarize for the larger audience and for the benefit of everybody who's tuned in, ladies and gentlemen, what Mr. Roy and Manish basically articulated was that for organizations that are seeking hyper-competitiveness as well as resilience, data needs to be looked at as more of a business asset, because by collecting the correct data at its source, uh, and coupling an embedded layer of artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions, organizations will be able to craft, actionable business insight with far-reaching impact, including customer experience, greater collaboration and innovation, and of course, the revamp of existing business models. But gentlemen, it has been nothing short of a privilege to have had this dialogue with both of you. We are supremely grateful for both of you having taken our time today to spend it with us. Mr. Roy, thank you so much, sir. It's been a privilege.
Thank you. It was very, I really enjoyed this discussion.
And Manish, truly grateful. It was just lovely hearing your views. And then obviously the coupling with Mr. Roy's views, I think we've had a great dialogue. Thank you so much, sir.
Likewise, I'm hoping our audience really likes it as much as we did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was your host, Arjun Vishwanathan. I was with Manish Gupta and Atanu Roy in this dialogue on artificial intelligence and machine learning. Stay tuned with us. We'll be back with the next segment in just a moment.
Thank you, Atanu, Manish, and Arjun. That was indeed a thought provoking discussion. With that, we now move forward to our next session, which is a fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen, executives in every industry know that data is important. Without it, there can be no digital transformation to propel the organization. There are no analytics driving new source of revenue. Even running the business well isn't possible. But for data to fuel these initiatives, it must be readily available, of high quality, and relevant. Good data governance ensures data has these attributes, which enable it to create value. To tell us more about valuable data and getting the most out of it, we will jump into the next conversation with Mr. Sheikh Mohammed Imran, who's the AI Technical Solutions Specialist at Intel, and Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, the Chief Research Officer, Strategy Inc. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, your host, and I'm going to be in conversation today with a subject matter expert from within industry, someone who's got his hands and elbows deep in technology, and especially those technologies that go on towards building the future intelligent enterprises of tomorrow. Please put your hands together to join me in welcoming Sheikh Mohammed Imran, Artificial Intelligence Solution Specialist from Intel India. Imran, welcome. Delighted that you could join us today.
Thank you, Arjun. Nice to have you here.
Imran, we've got a certain runway, and I'm directly going to come to you. Given your wide vista and the visibility that you have towards industry from a solutions and technology perspective, it's often said that there are two very distinct journeys that organizations must undertake. The first is the whole concept of managing data or data management and its subsequent evolution into leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to build the intelligence and infuse the intelligence that is necessary for industry, for its resurgence and its revival, and to build more intelligent organizations as we move along in the future. But as is often observed, both of these are very diverse and distinct journeys. In your view as a specialist, how do you see organizations building holistic data architectures for them to really leverage the potential and the opportunities that this very expansive journey will bring? Imran.
Yeah. So if we look at the pre-AI era, so I would say that we are already in an AI era, wherein we have the AI fused applications almost in every other walk of life, right? And if we go back to the one step back and we look at the how data was generated and sort of stored in the pre-AI era, it was mostly in terms of structured format, right? So now humans were typically introduced to managing data from a tables perspective, from a ledger perspective, and that analogy sort of extended into storage of those data in the data that is generated into tables and databases and so on, right? So that's how we initially started. But now, if you look at with this explosive growth of access of internet to almost everyone in the world, and specifically being India, where you have internet at very cheap rate, right? Quite cheap rates. There is a lot of variety in the terms of data that's being generated, right? You have images being uploaded by users onto their social media profiles. You have video which is being generated, right, by the users, and you also have the text in the digitized format, where you have the forum interaction between the users or information being recorded as Wikipedia pages. So this is only with respect to a direct user generated content per se. But if you look at the industry specific data, you have a wide variety of IoT sensors, and there is like humongous volume of data in terms of just those IoT sensors is being pushed onto the organization. So so to access such digitized format, so such access to the digitized format has enabled giant leaps in terms of algorithms for specific domains, say like computer vision, or in the space of natural language processing. And also we've made drastic strides in terms of structured data. And what we see is that every company should sort of exploit the data that they have for their competitive advantage, right? The underlying what we feel is that the underlying data should the method at least should sort of have things being enabled, like real-time predictions with which you help to run your business effectively, or you have customer specific recommendations to sort of personalize the content for business experience and growth and retention. We also sort of have to embrace a perspective where we enable your smooth scalability, so you sort of enable this drastic incoming of data onto your data centers. So we at Intel have been a catalyst of almost significant technology transformations in the past 50 years. And by means of preparing our partners, customers, and enterprises for a digital era. So, and in the area of artificial intelligence per se, India is sort of Intel is sort of a forefront on providing these end-to-end solutions that create.
With the permission, Imran, I have a question there, and it's more a follow-up of what you very powerfully articulated just a short while back, which is, see, the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then subsequently deep learning is also reliant on and largely dependent on the solution that folks such as you are constantly innovating on, being fed adequate, relevant data for relevant insights to come out. If it were to be equally true, as industry tends to observe today, that we are mostly just scratching the surface of the data. In your view, Imran, how do you see artificial intelligence solutions being able to generate for businesses and organizations the intelligent insights necessary to power strategic decisions? Isn't it a continuum or a dichotomy by itself?
Yeah, so all this data that we just spoke of, when we want to just take that data and generate insights without the help of AI, we will be ending up spending hours and hours of data in terms of human effort and as well as compute to get it that. But today with artificial intelligence, we have models which can be created based on this precise data which has been gathered with all these different methods. And these models are not just black box models, but they are sophisticated, explainable models, owing to the privacy laws in different countries, be it the US or the Europe, right? So these are like explainable models, which are not redundant in a fashion, meaning it's not just you just create one and you go away with it. So the data is incoming, it's flowing by day and day out. And this data is going to be used with your organizations to update your existing models as well, right? Be it retraining your model or whatever, be it the method which we are trying to approach. So we are this having such models sort of enables the company to sort of exclusive benefits, right? So in terms of offering better customer services, for instance, we could remove redundant work in terms of marketing. For example, geo-specific content can be automated through automatic translation services, or if you have the unique content being generated by users in different languages and different geographies that can be parsed and into meaningful representations, which businesses can vitally use it for the forthcoming strategies which they are planning for. Yeah. And also from from a recommendation perspective, you can curate your content and curate your products to suit a certain category of users, right? So as into what a user might prefer or what user might not prefer. And that has been a long stride which has been enabled through the advent of AI. And not we are not just restricting ourselves with this. We also are able to replicate the knowledges and reselling methodologies of expert by expert model systems. So what we do in such a way is that we take the input data and we pass it on to experts, and we sort of record the judgments or the decisions what the experts might make. And we have this sort of labeled information where you have the input data and you have the output, which is the expectations of your experts, right? And we sort of take this combination and pass it on to our machine learning model. And what we can do is we can sort of create an approximate model which would generate a similar type of expert opinion when given some certain set of inputs based on what you use for training the data.
So that's very, very interesting, really. But I do have a view on the clock, Imran, and I do know you have a hard stop. If you were to boil this down, and in such supreme articulation, if you were to boil this down into maybe three areas that Intel, and of course, in your overall partnership with Dell Technologies, and in the ecosystem scheme of things, if you were to put in all this innovation that Intel is bringing to the table, to let this wonderful audience that's tuning in with us today know from a business strategy point of view, how will it help them outperform? Number one, drive hyper competitiveness. That's number two. And last but not the least, really and truly create the enterprise, intelligent enterprises of tomorrow. Imran.
Yeah, so like the data warehouse, the which is the actually the storehouse of all the data, which has been recorded with all these different sort of information, and the organization until now has been exclusively using that sort of data to sort of run diagnosis on to understand the root cause of the problem, or say to get out visualizations to get a bird's eye perspective of what's happening in their organization. But if you with AI being there, you can see a lot of AI infused apps in terms of cool interactions, I would say. Say like voice assistants in your phone, which can actually understand what you're speaking and translate your instructions into specific actions in your phone. Or be it your self-driving vehicles, where you can where you would have seen the videos where the vehicle could automatically change your lanes, or stop depending upon without actually depending upon a human driver, right? So those are your cool interactions. And also there are also less subtle things, right? Say things like if you log into a banking site, you might be engaged with a pop-up where it talks about where you have a automated chatbot, right, which is powered by AI. So that will sort of reducing the load on your end workforce by helping to sort of the most frequently asked questions, or use it.
Workload by itself, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So that's supremely articulated, Imran, and we're very, very thankful that you could come in, given the time that we had, and bring out time from your schedule. We do know you're fairly busy, but it was genuinely lovely speaking with you. But that is all that we have time in this segment for. Sheikh Mohammed Imran, ladies and gentlemen, artificial intelligence solution specialist from Intel India, was in conversation with your host Arjun Vishwanathan. Imran, delightful having spent this time having this conversation. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you, Arjun.
Lovely. And for the audience, folks, stay tuned. We'll be back with the next segment in just a moment.
Thank you, Sheikh Mohammed and Arjun. That was indeed engaging and insightful. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we move forward to our next segment, which is a panel discussion. There has never been a better time to achieve impact with data. More and more data is available. Computing power is ever increasing, and mathematical techniques and data science are getting more and more advanced. Data management is a critical component of any business strategy, as companies of all sizes and types struggle with data growth, data storage costs, and data protection. Several technologies and business related difficulties make understanding data's importance and realizing its potential a persistent challenge. To address the all important questions around data management and monetization, let's welcome Mr. Dhaval Pandya, who is the corporate CIO, Piramal Enterprises Limited, and Mr. Srinivas Rao, Senior Director, Systems Engineering at Dell Technologies. They are going to be in a conversation moderated by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, who is the Chief Research Officer, Strategy. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be in conversation today with two very, very eminent gentlemen from within industry. Because we're going to talk about how there's perhaps never been a better time to achieve impact with data. As more and more data is available, computing power is ever increasing, and mathematical techniques and the so-called data science are getting more and more advanced. What's more, digital and data have now become synonymous and perhaps the talk of the town. Yet, while talking about data as the new oil or as the new gold, as it were, several technology and business related difficulties make understanding data's importance and realizing its persistent potential a particular challenge. And to talk to me about all of this and how judicious approaches by industry can transform business outcomes, please put your hands together to welcome Dhaval Pandya, Corporate CIO, Piramal Enterprises Limited. Dhaval, delighted you could join us, sir. Welcome.
Good morning, Arjun. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
And Srinivas Rao, Senior Director, Systems Engineering, Dell Technologies. Srini, welcome. Delighted that you could join us.
Good morning, Arjun, and good morning, everyone.
Gentlemen, we've got a fantastic 30 minutes ahead, and my intention is to maximize the impact so that we're able to leverage the full impact of your potential, your expertise, your visibility, and your experience. Because Dhaval, I'm directly going to jump to you with my primary question, and one that begs the kind of seriousness that it deserves, perhaps, which is how do you see data moving from simply being a digital asset to becoming a strategic business asset?
So, Arjun, I think the way you opened the conversation, I think it was extremely appropriate because, things like data is now getting the kind of importance which it thus far never had, and it has only been on a rise because a lot of companies now have seen the potential of investing into data-driven decision making.
Indeed.
So that's where enterprises have now started looking at data very differently from something that they needed to have, more like a system of records to more like an asset, like you rightly put it, where they can actually harvest, invest, and then convert it into something more meaningful, whereby the business potential completely changes. So data is now actually providing a delta increment in the revenue, or maybe a delta decrement in the cost, or a delta increment in productivity. And all this, what all the three translate into, more importantly, is a delta increase in the customer experience, where there's a thrust of completely utilizing data, getting into intent driven conversations, getting into contextual conversations, getting into predictive conversations, utilizing data to, for example, understand what is the tendency of a particular customer when he's interacting with you, what is it that he is looking for, and more importantly, what is the lifetime value that this customer presents to you, so you can treat him with commensurate importance. So it's now almost become a rhetorical question when someone says that, okay, is data important? It's almost rhetorical. People have invested into data sciences. They are looking at more and more ways of collecting meaningful data, converting into insights, intuitive insights, and then utilizing them and interweaving them into the business processes that run the organization.
Yeah, that's fascinating because Dhaval, I'm going to pick up a couple of things that you said, and Srini, I'm going to bring that to you. Dhaval very supremely articulated the concept of harvesting the data, but I want you, Srini, to take a step back. In your experience and your visibility, given the wide spectrum that you have within Dell Technologies to be interacting with the outside world, folks like CIOs and so on, are you even being able to see the ingestion happening in its judicious manner for it to be harvested for greater business outcomes? Srinivas Rao.
Okay, let me give a little perspective about what Mr. Dhawan has highlighted. As the transformation becomes a table stake for the survival, data has rapidly becomes organizations' most valuable asset today. I think in today's world, data along with seamless user engagement is the ultimate source of competitive differentiation what organizations are carrying it today. And if we believe leaders in the data era will be those organizations who modernize their data management approach to become at an intelligent business in their environment. By doing so, they will reimagine the customer experience, product, and their business models as well, which they are planning to deliver in the coming future as well. And the most important agenda for the organizations right now is to figure out how to create new value for their customers, because that's very, very relevant in today's era, and specifically at the post-pandemic era as well, and how to innovate and develop and deliver the new value at speed. That is becoming very, very crucial. To be ready for what's next, organization needs to timely access this high quality, trusted data so that you can develop personalized and I would say integrated experiences for their customers. Second, create smart and connected services and products to develop their business and develop a data-driven business models which allow organizations to adopt new value chains and participate in the new digital ecosystems. Okay, for all these things to be achieved, as you rightly mentioned, the data ingestion is very, very crucial, and putting a right kind of data management framework is very, very crucial to really be successful in deriving the value from the data which has been, which is very, very crucial for the customers. Yeah, we are in the journey. We are not up to the expectations, but I think all the organizations are in the journey, and you will see this data ingestion and integrating and providing the meaningful information will evolve more and more as we go forward, and they add their customer demands more and more out of them.
That's actually quite fascinating, really, Srinivas, because Dhaval, I'm going to bring that to you. And in the fashion that I'm going to articulate this question is, Srini spoke very brilliantly about value for customers. He spoke about integrated experiences. Now, when you kind of boil that all together, how important in your view, and given that you now are almost neck deep with your varied experience within technology, how important is it to create a data management architecture, especially in view of organizations attempting to drive innovation-led hyper-competitiveness? How important does that become, and what in your essential guidance should be the approach?
So you rightly put it when you started the conversation, Arjun, to say that data is now the new oil or it is the new gold, right? And I firmly believe that like oil or gold, it needs mining, right? So you have to put in that effort. So it's not about gathering more and more data, right? It's about gathering the right data, because let's take a step back and understand what we are trying to do here. By investing in data sciences and data-driven decision making, we are now replacing what earlier used to be based on experience or hunch, which means that we are now challenging the past. We are basing more and more important futuristic decisions that will possibly determine the course of the enterprise on this particular on certain insights that we have collected. So it becomes utmost importance, not just so two or three things should be the guiding principle here in my view. It is not about getting more and more data. There is a plethora of data. In about say 10 years time, there will be about a petabyte of data available online for every user of the internet. That's the volume of data that we are talking about. So there is no dearth of data. It is about getting the right data, and it is more importantly about maintaining that data. Unless and until you keep that data recent and relevant, there will be certain biases creeping into when you say, for example, run data science using AI and ML over that stack of data. So there will be biases creeping into it. And given the volume of data that it will churn, it will become next to impossible to challenge that decision then based on a second guess. So what it means essentially is that you need to have a very clear data management architecture, a very clear data layer, a monolithic layer of data which will provide a single source of truth as far as all the important data records and data types are concerned. For example, I should have a single source of truth for my customer, for my material, for my revenue master, for my cost master, for example, certain taxation, certain inventory points. It's important to have one point of truth that is referenceable and not questionable. And this can only be achieved if you have a data management architecture in place, a data management strategy more important in place, which drives that architecture and keeps telling you as to how you are supposed to deal with that particular data that you are having, given the privacy rights, right? Today, GDPR is becoming more and more of a talking point. So how are you going to keep that, not only keep the data relevant and recent, how are you going to ensure the privacy, and most importantly, how are you going to keep it secure? Because with more and more data becoming, enterprises becoming data driven, they are only making themselves more and more vulnerable to attacks, because they know because the prying eyes know that this is something that can bring the entire machinery to a grinding halt. So having the right data management strategy is a good point, is a good starting point where you are able to clearly articulate what is the type of data that you want to capture, how are you going to store it, where are you going to store it, how frequently are you going to update it, what is the classification of that data, for example. Are there tuples which are, for example, private, they are confidential, they are internal only, or they are public. So all of this has to become a coherent part of your data management strategy, which in turn translates into a data management layer, a data management architecture, and drives all these principles of data management.
Very, very interesting, because Srini, I come to you now with that question that perhaps is very defining, and therefore I'd like your perspective from the perspective of obviously Dell Technologies and the larger partner ecosystem that you have, which is exactly what Dhaval mentioned. How are you therefore enabling industry, partnering industry to not just draw up judicious and coherent data management strategies, but also working with them closely to build those data management architectures with your solutions so that you're able to help them forge more resilient and confident journeys ahead? Srinivas Rao.
I think Dhaval's points are really music to my eyes, actually, explaining in the way why he's explained the data management architecture and the strategy is very, very important to the organizations. It is a very, very important and crucial layer one needs to focus to flourish the digital services today. The data management layer is so, so critical. Along with the legacy system data, there are new emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. We talk about security, edge, 5G, etc., which is generating humongous amount of data. And data management layer, like Dhaval explained, is the one which ties all of these emerging technologies together to really, really put into some kind of data lake or a data architecture at the back end. Without this proper data management layer, we cannot achieve AI, or you cannot do modern edge computing and so on, which is really, really needed in today's world. We are the crux of this humongous data era. For the first time in the industry, we not only have zettabytes of data at our fingertips every second, but also intelligent compute infrastructure, softwares, and algorithms to rapidly turn that data into meaningful insights. To grasp the opportunity of the data, our organizations in every industries and geography need to transform into an intelligent business with timely access, high quality, and trusted data to fuel individual experiences. So we at Dell Technologies, to really address this challenge, we have come up with a strategy, or I call it as a framework to address the organization data management challenges. I call it as a three-pillar framework. First pillar, it talks about discovering, preparing, and integrating the data. That is very, very important and crucial for any data management layer. And the second pillar, which I talk about, is all about store, protect, and process the data. And that is where having an MT and IT infrastructure plays a very, very important role. And the third pillar is very clearly is all about analyzing the data, getting insights into the data, and third and important thing is taking action based on this data. This is the strategy and the framework which we have put at Dell Technologies, which has helped a lot of organizations. And I think we are very, very keen and happy to help organizations who want to embark into this journey of this data management layer. But however, this is a very, very important layer before embarking into the emerging technologies. Having this important strategy and the data management layer becomes very, very crucial and important for the organization.
Interesting, because Dhaval, in the same breath, if I were to come to you, we speak today about data in the same breath as we speak about artificial intelligence and machine learning. You're aware of that. In your guidance, in your experience, in your perspective, Dhaval, do you feel that our urgency to move towards artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions and algorithms is perhaps misplaced because we perhaps are not even scratching the surface of the data that we have? And therefore, do you think these complex yet fascinating journeys towards artificial intelligence and machine learning must be better thought out and better planned before jumping into them?
So it's absolutely right, Arjun. Because like I said, today AI and ML have become the jazz words. People want to get
Them to
into
the Jesus.
people want to get onto AI and ML just so that they can quote to their management and board of directors and possibly the external ecosystem that okay they are onto they are utilizing AI and ML technologies. Uh, it has to be, in my mind, everything has to be KPI driven very clearly. So you have to identify which are the KPIs that you wish to move. Firstly, create a baseline for those KPIs to establish where you are today, and then look at possibly benchmarks or leading practices or source what the best players in the industry or somewhere else are doing, and how are they performing on their KPIs to identify the quantum of gap. That would be a starting point to tell you where should you be concentrating your energies, and if it is something actually that needs a data driven decision making in the first place or not. Because alone technology is not going to solve the problem. Many a times I'm a firm believer that it is the three levers of people, process and technology that make the outcome possible. Alone technology will not be able to do it, because let's accept the fact that an organization that has not utilized AI and ML before, once they start doing it, it is a significant behavioral change that
Change.
comes to picture, not only from a perspective of managing the data and treating data with that importance, but also, for example, acknowledging the fact that yes, there is external intelligence available which can replace, if not completely, partially, the decision making process which was so far hidden behind the closed doors of the CEO cabins or the CFO cabins or the CIO cabins, right? So, like I said, there is no dearth of data, and if any consulting partner were to step into any organization, the first thing he'll see is that there is data which is available. It may be in a rudimentary or say in an unstructured manner. For example, it may be in certain Excel sheets, it may be in certain offline records of system, or it may be as a part of the core enterprise system, but it's available. The quantum and the quality of data is questionable. So you first have to establish that yes, there is a dearth of data, because AI and ML, let's face it, they run on data. So they need a particular threshold of data to be able to make meaningful recommendations.
Agreed.
Otherwise, it will always fall into that error tolerance or margin of error kind of scenario where you will not be able to utilize it fruitfully. So first cognizance is yes, what is more importantly, what is the data that you need? And if that data is either the quality or the quantity is questionable, then that can become a starting point to put in place data management strategies, put in place certain behavioral changes, and put in place certain systems that will help you assimilate, accumulate, and maintain that data.
That's very interesting because, Srini, if I were to bring that to you and twist that around, it is also perhaps incumbent on us to inquire from Dell Technologies' perspective and your larger partner ecosystem, what is the kind of innovation we can expect over the next few years that will help industry and organizations and enterprises truly solidify this journey, cement the kind of what Dhaval brilliantly articulated, saying KPI-driven journeys and KPI-driven outcomes, and be able to fundamentally and finally drive a more intelligence-based journey forward towards hyper-competitiveness, differentiation, and incremental business outcomes.
Yeah, I think let me give some certain statistics. Today, I think less than 0.5% of the world data is being analyzed. I think that's a hard reality, inevitably leading to an what I call it as huge amount of dark data, which is not being really captured for analyzing it and using it for the business needs, which is a strong and very clear indicator, which I think Mr. Dhawan also brought it up, which is a strong indicator that, okay, one needs to have a clear and very well articulated data management layer, okay, or the framework or the strategy for the organizations to really put in place to really embark into this AI and machine learning kind of technologies. And second thing, my point of view is it is the use cases which really defines how well you want to use these technologies to really derive some meaningful information out of this entire data. However, having said that, there are some enterprises which have already reached certain kind of maturity stages. Today, if I take some of these day-to-day things which has been happening with us, the OTT platforms today users already using the AI technologies, which usually it comes up with the latest TV recommendations for us. And again, they're using the AI technologies behind that. And similarly, if I go to some kind of online shopping like me, who I prefer to do an online shopping, before really thinking about the product, actually they already come up with an 3 or 4 kind of recommendations, which will help me to go ahead and maybe streamline my search actually. And there are industries like certain healthcare and certain farming and even public and private sectors who was embarking into this AI technologies where they're using it for their certain really well-defined use cases as well. But most importantly, AI has become a key pillar of the enterprise digital transformation strategy. Whether we like it or not, it has become an integral part of the digital transformation strategy, which is where I think we need to put the data management layer first and then understand the use cases, what you want to derive out of this entire data, and build an algorithms which can extract the meaningful information, which can help their business to grow multifold in their, not only in the current environment, but in future as well.
Fascinating, fascinating. Because, Dhaval, I come to you with a very important question. We've been speaking about digital transformation for the last 5 or 6 years now. When you kind of boil it all down, is it perhaps true that digital transformation means intelligence for an organization to grow organically as well as inorganically? And if that were to be true, Dhaval, what, in your view, are maybe those three things that you would guide industry and this lovely audience that's tuning in with us today on how to even approach this journey?
Right. So transformation, again, one of the most used or abused terminologies today, and everybody like AI and ML wants to do digital transformation. What is important in my view is that taking cognizance of the fact in the first place that yes, a transformation is required is a good starting point actually, because the problem with legacy organizations is that they want to maintain status quo, and they are sometimes happy with delta and incremental benefits. They are not even thinking about quantum benefits. What this makes is what happens then is that they are vulnerable to some 25-year-old geek sitting somewhere in some corner of the world who's already thinking about how could this particular industry or how could the process in this particular industry be completely turned on their head. And one of the most potent weapons that he is utilizing is the digital technologies, right? So what has happened is that the digital technology has it has provided and it has become a great leveler where it can completely wipe out the legacy or the incumbent advantage that somebody may be holding for some period of time. So taking cognizance of the fact that yes, there is scope for improvement, there is scope to drastically do something different, not being different for the heck of it, but being different so that it provides meaningful and measurable experience or benefits to the organization and the customer. So that would be the first starting point, I would say. The second would be that it has to be approached in a phased and a staged manner. You need to have clear milestones across the entire journey. So first things first, you need to have a roadmap. So getting into defining a digital roadmap which clearly articulates what is going to be your digital strategy, how is it going to impact your people, how is it going to impact your processes, and then identifying those capabilities, not applications. Identifying the capabilities which are required for you to be able to meaningfully transform from your current state to the future state. And the third and the most important thing, I come back to my KPI, is that you need a means of ongoing assessment, because it is very important that you are not just meandering along the way. You are able to meaningfully identify what is the benefit that every investment that you're making. You need to have a business case for every application and every digital initiative. You need to clearly have a very an important sponsor in the organization who asks all the difficult and can be the bad boy in the room. And clearly you need to have KPIs which will tell you whether you're moving in the right direction or not. So having a strategy, having a roadmap, and then having means to measure the differentiation that is coming in. These could be the good principles to have when you start talking about the digital transformation exercise.
Interesting, interesting. Srini, same question to you. Data is transformational. Therefore, in your essential guidance, how should organizations even approach this journey so that they come out more positively impacted than not?
My way, Arjun, transformation is inevitable. It is needed for really to be very competitive in this world today. Having said that, it is all about customer experiences. How can we provide better customer experience for all the users what we have? That should be the starting point when we are looking at the digital transformation journey. And out of those things, as Dhaval highlighted, what are the priority things which we need to bring it up to really, which makes a big impact to their entire customer base as well. Those are the things which we need to see how we can improve, the, how we can provide the digital services to the entire customers on a priority basis, which will have a bigger impact to them as well. And as Mr. Again Dhaval highlighted, it has to be a journey. It is not an overnight switching of the things, right? Saying that somebody say, okay, I will move to a digital transformation thing. It has to be a journey where clear-cut strategy and vision for the organization need to be laid out. In accordance to that, you need to put out a plan in terms of achieving, start with a smaller thing which has the highest impact, and then slowly start developing those services so that your organization fully transforms into a digital services organization so that you provide better services to the customers there. So my point is all about customer experience. Today, if I take banking as an example, I do all my services sitting at home using my mobile phone. I mean, they have done a lot of digital services. So which means they have kind of matured in those kind of providing those digital services. So it is important for us to stay relevant in this competitive world. It is important to have that vision and just make a phased approach and put a plan to really achieve the overall outcome of the static company's vision there.
Well, that's very powerfully articulated, gentlemen, but I do have a view on the clock. My last concluding question. Dhaval, I come to you first, sir. As organizations become more intelligence infused by virtue of the data that they will generate and process towards intelligence, how do you see gut and instinct coexisting with data-led insights?
So in a way, if you look at it, Arjun, by using data sciences, what you are trying to do is you are trying to, codify the gut and instincts actually. So that's where I think what I mentioned earlier, that keeping the data most relevant is important, because if you have a lot of data which is accumulated over a period of time, and you are just you're taking insights from there without considering the relevance and recency of data in view, you may end up with insights which are way off from reality. So that's where I think the learning element from the AI and ML comes in, and I think it going ahead, it is going to be a suitable proxy for all the guts and instincts based decisions, where you're trying to corroborate whether data says the same thing as what you think, right? So it's going to be intelligence and artificial intelligence working together. So it will be AI which will be driving I, which is intelligent automation, right? So and be it the front office, be it the back of it, or be it the operational shop floor. So even a lot of hyper automation going into IoT and Industry 4.0 kind of scenarios. It also tries to do the same thing. For example, can I reschedule my production batches so that I'm able to satisfy more customers, or I'm able to reduce the stockouts that I'm having at my stocking points? And this was all gut based as to for what I think could sell more in a particular market vis-a-vis what I think will not sell so much in a particular market. And then data is making these decisions by taking these insights from the markets and transforming them into shop floor production planning systems, for example. So I think it is going to be first intelligence versus artificial intelligence, and later on it will be intelligence with artificial intelligence. That's how it's going.
And in conclusion, Srinivas, if I were to come to you, I know for a fact that Dell Technologies globally as well as in India is betting big on data and AI ML. One big prediction that you are willing to make today, that in your view and from the innovation that will come from Dell Technologies, is truly going to revamp industry as well as organizations' business outcomes.
Okay, now I firmly believe that, okay, by 2025, I think we'll be creating somewhere close to 463 exabytes of data every day. Okay, and specifically when it comes to organization, I think there'll be huge amount of data that will be created every day, be it be structured, be it be unstructured, or be it be semi-structured data on that. Today, data scientists already spending almost 45% of the time of their data preparing the data for all these tasks and all those things. And in a light of all these things, what I firmly believe is we need to have a more efficient ways to manage the data that is hitting all these organizations. Okay. What we need to have is first and foremost important thing is go with a journey. I mean, by putting a data management framework or strategy or layer, it's not a single day journey. It has to be a maybe multi-day journey as well. That is the one thing which I would expect organization to put that strategy in place first. In over and above, look at how we can use the algorithms and the machine learning technologies, AI and ML technologies to really extract meaningful information where the data scientists spend less amount of time preparing this data there as well. Because if you have to do this task using the data scientist manually, it's going to become huge task for them. So you need to have the technologies, and that is the one way a lot of efforts and a lot of automation and intelligence is going to bring going forward.
Fantastic, gentlemen. I think this has been a dialogue in supreme perspectives and guidance. Dhaval, Sri, thank you so very much. It has been nothing short of a privilege having been in dialogue with you. Thank you. I mean, we stand much the better for having heard your perspectives.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you, Mr. Dhaval. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this entire roundtable discussion.
Thanks a lot.
And for the audience, I, Arjun Vishwanathan, was in conversation with Srinivas Rao and Dhaval Pandya. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the next segment in just a moment.
Thank you very much, Pavel, Srinivas, and Arjun. That was an impactful and engaging discussion. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, for organizations seeking hyper competitiveness, data needs to be looked at as more of a business asset. By collecting the correct data at source and coupling AI and ML solutions, organizations are crafting actionable business insights with far reaching impact, including customer experience, greater collaboration, logistics optimization, and more. AI and ML are turning out to be the new mantra for companies looking to grow through data and analytics. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the conclusion of today's episode of the Connected CIO. We would request you to please spare a few moments of your time to fill in the feedback form. Your feedback is absolutely essential to us. Please feel free to mention any suggestions or recommendations. This will help us enhance the content, structure, and delivery of our conferences and webinars. We would also like to thank each one of you for having taken out your valuable time to be present with us today and hope that the webinar has been engaging and fruitful. We look forward to welcoming you at the next episode of the Connected CIO. Our team will be in touch to share more details with you shortly. Thank you once again for joining us today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy the rest of your day.